In this video series of ACL rehabilitation, I am going to talk about prehabilitation to return to sports after ACL reconstruction. I am going to go through key markers in each phase to move on to the next following phase so you can maximize your rehabilitation plan. In this first part of video, I am going to explain the mechanism of injury as well as prehabilitation goal. Welcome to proactivephysioknowledge.com. I am Jamin Bhatt. In this ACL injury to rehabilitation series, I will share my knowledge and experience with you. I hope this discussion will help you to improve your clinical skills. This series is based on my recent launch of book regarding ACL goal oriented rehabilitation. In this book, I wrote from injury to enhancing performance as well as prevention of injury. You can visit my website www.proactivephysioknowledge.com and read the book. So now we'll start with the introduction part. We as a clinician see in our practice that there is always a fear of re-injury in an athletic patient. So many of time people change the job and give up the sports. Early 1980s, when there was an ACL injury, the post-operative cast, there was a delay in weight bearing as well as the range of motion will allowed after a few weeks or a month. The 70% of ACL injury is a non-contact injury. There is also a lack of clear rehabilitation regarding the ACL. And in an athlete, there is always a fear of re-injury of the ligament. So now let's understand about the anatomy of an ACL. ACL is 25 to 35 millimeter in length. It consists of two bundles, anteromedial bundle and the posterolateral bundle. However, some portion of ACL is under tension in every angle of knee flexion. So it enables the ACL to restrict the rotation of the knee as well as anterior translation of tibia. The ACL starts from the tibia and it ends to the femoral condyle. ACL contains a mechanoreceptors, hence it directly influences the neuromuscular control of the knee joint. Some portion of ACL is attached to the lateral meniscus also. Now how the ACL get injured? The mechanism of injury. ACL tears is the most common ligament injury in the knee joint. As I told you earlier, 70% occurring knee injury during the non-contact trauma. When there is a loss of mechanoreceptor, there is altered a supraspinal motor control. Therefore, the changes in motor control strategies and it can reveal the change in a proprioception, posture control, muscle strength as well as movement pattern. That's why ACL injury is called a neurophysiological injury. The most common mechanism of ACL injury is valgus with external rotation of the knee joint. More than 2% of ACL injury occurs in a male and from 2.0 to 3.2% of ACL injury occurs in the female also. Physical examination test specifically designed to check the integrity of ACL. You should do the test on opposite side also. These are the tests that we as a clinician usually use to identify the ACL injury. The Latchman test is very much popular and it has a good specificity as well as sensitivity also. If you find the translation of tibia 0 to 5 millimeter, then you rate ACL injury as a grade 1. As the translation increase, you can increase the grade up to 3. So the stability testing is most important. But before checking the integrity of ACL, there should be a less pain as well as the swelling of the knee joint has been reduced. Now gait plays an important role after the ACL injury. During the phase of gait cycle, limb accept a full weight of body and the shock attenuation via knee flexion, which is controlled by an eccentric contraction of the muscles. When patients have instability, they alter their movement pattern through reducing the knee flexion as well as the internal knee extensor movement. There is altered in a movement pattern which results in a quadriceps inhibition. In ACL deficit patient, in early stent phase, when he has a quadriceps inhibition, that time there is increasing activity of the hamstring as well as the gastrocnemius muscles. So, ACL deficit patient walks with the significantly lower internal rotation during the terminal phase of gait cycle, and this is called a pivot shift gait. The complex loading condition of the gait where the anteromedial bundle as well as posterolateral bundle of ACL which are not in isometric phase. The ACL is maximum elongated throughout the mid-stand phase and plays a major role to resist an anterior translation of the tibia. Now, what are the main goals for the rehabilitation part? Gain a functional stability, achieve full knee extension, that is more important, reach to functional level, and decrease the risk of re-injury. These goals should be considered during the rehabilitation phase. Now, the quality of exercise is very much important. No new exercise should be begun prior to neuromuscular readiness. If certain group remains weak, then it turns into the faulty movement, and this faulty movement eventually affects the kinetic chain. The literature states that people have a better outcomes when they have a full range of motion as well as a good quadriceps and hamstring strength with regards to minimal swelling prior to surgery. Strengthening exercise should be start once the pain subside, as well as you should incorporate a neuromuscular drill along with the strengthening exercise. But I would prefer to start the neuromuscular exercise first, then followed by the strengthening exercise. Now the prehabilitation part. A thorough prehabilitation is to restoring the knee to the optimal functional level before the surgery. There has to be a good quadriceps strength, the full range of motion, pain-free, both the sides, patella mobility has to be equal, and the patient is familiarized with the post-operative exercise. On the right side of the picture, this is from my book, The Criteria for Recommending ACL Surgery, that I explained you over here. Now, in the next video, we'll talk about the acute phase of ACL injury.